So we're going to transition here. We got an additional question that's somewhat relevant, and then we're going to talk also about the law enforcement funding. So if there is anything you would recommend we can cut to save money, there's a question on speaking to that. And then regarding specifically the law enforcement, we recently saw and heard elected officials state that members of the council voted to defund the police. What is your response to that statement, and do you believe the defund the police statement to be true? And also, what are your plans for funding the sheriff's office and detention center, specifically vacancies?
Well, I guess being one of the people that the headline was directed at, I will speak to it directly. It was a headline. It was done for sensationalism. The people that were included in that were not the police. There were civilian police support personnel. The sworn officers were not included in that whatsoever. So to put out a statement that myself and other members of council were voting to defund the police is irresponsible, inappropriate. I won't go any farther with that. But everyone in this county knows that myself and the other members that were accused of this would never vote to defund our police. We support our law enforcement first and foremost. We would put them at the forefront. And it was actually the reason that we looked against that particular legislation, because our law enforcement officers, our sworn law enforcement officers, were not included in those pay increases. It was the reason that we said that the legislation was flawed. We spoke to the administration about it, let them know what our concerns with the legislation centered around. That wasn't taken into account. There was no attempt whatsoever to adjust the legislation at all. There was no negotiation with the council to make it better legislation. So no one voted to defund the police, myself or anyone else.
So I'm a sales guy, so I do a lot of numbers. And basically, I was getting a set of numbers that said we had 183 people in the sheriff's department. We're going to divide up $425,000. So I divided that up and said, they're getting less money in the liquor board. I said, are your numbers correct? Well, I don't know. I think they're correct. Well, how can this be? The numbers aren't correct. We're not giving them any money. Well, they aren't correct. And I moved to table it. They didn't take the table. I'm sorry. You give me bad numbers, I'll make a bad decision. I never want to defund the police. I will tell you that this administration did defund the police because they took away their parity. And that's unfortunate. Before, when the county, anybody else in the county got an increase in pay, the deputies, the unionized deputies, would get an increase also because the finance department had money in the budget to increase them. That got taken away. Okay, they got a 3% increase. It's not enough. What would I do? We have a little more than $900,000 came in back from the state. We can use that to help the police situation, in my opinion. We need to fund our police. The reason for government is public safety. And that's including, and I also talk to a lot of firefighters, a lot of people, and the drug addiction and the drug problems we have in this county and everywhere else on the East Coast is bad. And these guys got to go through a lot of things. I was with a fire company guy that was about 100 pounds bigger, 100 pounds weighed more than me, and he said it took 2 people to hold a guy down to save his life. This is what these guys have to go through. We need to keep funding the police. Sorry to be so long. Thank you.
So I didn't make that council meeting when they had the original legislation voted upon. I got up the next day, went to work, halfway through the day, checked Facebook, and I see council votes to defund police. And so I read it. Of course, I think everybody in this county who supports or pretty much anybody in this county, I think, supports our law enforcement. So of course I saw that, taken aback, read it, and then immediately jumped over to watch the legislation session. I didn't agree with that press release. I watched that legislation, did not see that that's what would happen that night. So that's kind of my answer to that question. So I think also going back to, properly funding the sheriff's department, I think, a big thing is that there's a union contract with it. So you've got the executive, you've got your union, that's, the big part of it. And I think, if you're upset, take it to the union as well. I think there's that component. Everybody's putting it on the executive and council. I think that there's, a big component of the union also. So there's also the question about recommending where we can cut to save money. So right before the legislation that was in question, a couple of weeks prior to that, there was legislation put forth requesting funds from Department of Public Works for $3 million in additional for roadway work. Nobody questioned it. There weren't any questions about it, and they passed it. But then you get to funding your county employees, and there's a big fuss about it the night of the vote. So there were some questions through the working sessions that I saw as I was watching the videos, and then it became more of a bigger deal the night of. So there was all these questions around employees who aren't unionized. There's questions about 6% versus other percentages, and where the funds were coming from. But 2 weeks prior, it was unanimously passed that we're just going to give $3 million to roadways. Where's that money going to? So are we patching? Are we just continually putting patch down and not fixing our roads? And we're just wasting money that way. So I do see where there are other departments that need to be accountable, where their funds are going, what it's being spent on. Are we just, in every department, are we patching situations or are we fixing situations?
Okay, so I'll try to speed this up. Where would I cut? Sheriff Adams, congratulations. With the stroke of a pen, I can give you $100,000 because this proposed budget has a position in it for the Police Accountability Board at the tune of $100,000. That was a new mandate that came down from Annapolis, but it could be a volunteer. It does not have to be somebody that gets paid $100,000 to do that job. So that's one place where I would cut, just right off the bat, from recent legislation that came down. How would I retain? First, the funding thing, I think it's been addressed. We all know that is not what it was. Clearly, that's not what it was. How would I retain these members? I alluded to that a little while ago. There needs to be some incentive for these guys to stay. We all talk about how important public safety is, then pay them. They can go to Delaware 5 minutes from here and make a lot more money. They can go to Harford County 10 minutes from here and make a lot more money. They're invested in their community. They want to be here. They live here. They raise their family here. We all talk about how important it is. So pay them. And let's look at some other things such as the layoffs that I talked about. I know there's a lot more that goes into that, but it does alleviate the burden of a pension from the county and puts it on the state. The county would still pay their portion, as would the employee make their contributions as well. But it's a better retirement. It's a 25-year retirement. It has a drop option. It gives them 2% per year, where the 25 years they go out at 50%. It may cost a little bit of money, but it's time to pony up because it's my understanding, the jail is about 38 vacancies. That's got to be close to catastrophic failure. And if you think that paying these guys is a lot of money, wait till one of them gets killed because they don't have the sufficient manpower, or the inmates that's in their care and custody get injured because we don't have the proper correctional deputies in there to make sure they're in a safe environment.
Party, Republican in name only. Do you believe we are all on the same team?
You guys Well, that's, I forgot, microphone. Some interesting questions. I think all of it kind of relates to one thing, or actually two things. Two things that have been removed not only from politics, but from our society as a whole. Respect and dignity. What happened to the ability to respect one another? I don't have to agree with everything that you or anyone sees, but I have to listen. And I have to try to understand. I have to try to let you understand my position. Because that's what we're elected to do. We're elected to represent the people that are out there that put us in this position, because we are a representative charter government. 5 members of council and an executive. Checks and balances. It's not about, oh, I disagree with you, so therefore I'm going to call you a name. I'm going to call you a rhino. When did these acronyms have to become part of our vernacular? When did it have to become part of the way that we interact with one another? When did they have to become part of what our government does? The government was formed initially to take into account those freedoms. The fact that you could disagree with your neighbor or whoever it is. But you had a representative government that would take all of those positions and opinions into account without discrimination and impart equality. They would put those values back into the society and govern accordingly. So that if there's one thing that we need to do, it's put 2 things back in place: respect and dignity. Listen to one another, respect one another, and work through the differences so that we can come to a decision that is most beneficial for the people that we serve.
Yeah, I'd like to riff on that, because I agree. I'm a lifelong Republican. I have been Republican since I was able to vote. I will say that Reagan was the first president I voted for. That is how old I am. But I came from a family who were all Democrat. The one thing I will say is the Democrat Party sticks together, right or wrong. They toe the line. They toe the line. Now, I heard the term anger, and I think that's a good line about the term rhino and things like this. It's more frustration, because when we come in as a member of a particular party, we are supposed to espouse certain values based on that party. And by your fruits you shall know them. So when we have, not saying anything here, just in general, candidates who propose and claim to be a member of a party or an organization who do not represent the values and thoughts of that particular party, that's what happens in the frustration with the term rhinos and things of that nature. We've seen it happen. And as a member of Central Committee, I've also go down to our conventions and see that happen very, very deeply, where people come from particular counties and they are, conservative Republicans, but some of the things they put through and propose are absolutely opposite. So what we're hearing, Bill, I think it's just frustration overall. And I firmly believe, yes, we need to have our elected officials who represent a certain party and a set of values to stand by those. That's part of the contract. And we can call each other out civilly, agree. But just the biggest thing is I think we can avoid a lot of this as long as we hold up our promise as members of a particular party to do what we promise to do and stand for. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, so I think a lot of the anger is, as Bob said, frustration. I too believe that if you are in a particular party, then we are to hold the same values. Yes, they might vary a little bit, but our values are basically the same. My feeling is that as a conservative Republican, I am here to listen to all of you. You may not think like me, you may have the same values, but you may have a different, if we have a problem, you may have a different solution than I do. You may have a different view on that situation, which nobody is saying that's right or wrong, but we as your government need to listen to all of you and hear what you have to say, regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat. But we need to take that into consideration. We should not be self-serving. We need to stick to our guidelines, stick to our values, stick to what we believe in, and take all of your feedback and then see how that molds into whatever we need to address in whatever the situation might be. So that's my take on it.
Just to add on to what pretty much everybody has said, I think that what may come across as anger is really just a passion from all of us, and I think to an extent you have to have some level of passion to be able to get up here and do any of this and to be involved in any of this and to take the criticism that you get from the public. I mean, I see the Facebook comments towards everybody, and it's just, people are hateful, let's just be honest with that. But I think there's a level of passion that we all share up here. So I think, I'm sorry if it comes across as anger to anybody. I just think it's that passion. And I think the question about equality, I don't think I heard anybody up here talk about equality making us angry. I certainly made a comment about their teaching. I don't want communism coming into this country in the name of equity. There's a huge difference between equity and equality. So, I'm running against Bill. Bill is a man, I am a female. There's not going to be equity. So to say that I need extra help or I need extra anything because I am a female versus him as a male is complete bullshit. And that's what equity is. So equality is saying that, we both have an opportunity to go to school. We both have an opportunity to get a job. That's equality versus equity. So I don't think any of us spoke about equality being an issue. I think, personally for me, I think equity just irks my soul because you can't give it without taking, you can't give equity without taking away equality from people. So I think that's kind of where that is. And I'm not going to even touch on the whole rhinos things because we're a Republican conservative county. I'm a conservative, not a Republican, so you can call me a rhino.
A month and a half ago, I did not know any member that's sitting up here today, okay? And I met Ms. Culberson tonight, my opponent, for the first time, and I was just letting everyone know, let her know, there will be no negativity or mudslinging coming from my side. I'm here to sell myself, and that's it. And that's the beautiful part of our country, is whoever you think is the best candidate, you get to go in and I also live by a certain code and certain words that hang in my office and in the halls every day, the sheriff's office. They are honor and integrity, okay? So with that, I'm sure there's some detectives in here that we are hiring, by the way. So, sheriff will hand out applications. So for anybody that's a detective that wanted to do a little bit of research on me, you will see that I was a registered Democrat up until, I don't even know, 7 or 8 years ago when I changed. So how'd that happen? I too, split family, mom Democrat, dad Republican. I was 18, I was more worried about baseball and some other things when I was in high school in politics. Mom, what do I register as? I'm a Democrat. Sounds good. And what I found myself doing all through my adult life was voting Republican every single time. I should have changed a lot sooner than I did, but I didn't. And if you think that I'm a rhino, then I would suggest that you go to anybody that has worked in Harford County David Craig, Jim Harkins, Billy Boniface, Barry Glassman, all of whom I've helped on their campaigns and helped them succeed and work with them. So yes, I was a Democrat in name only for a while, but that has changed. And like I said, full disclosure, because I know we have detectives in here, I live under the umbrella of honor and integrity, and I'm going to be truthful and upfront with you guys.
All right, so we have 3 more questions that are beautifully going to wrap up our evening. But before I get into that, does anybody have any additional questions that they would like to pass up? I've got a flow going on here, so. Okay, so I'm going to ask these 3 questions in succession. I'm not going to combine them together, even though there is a little bit of overlap, and everyone is invited to participate in these. They are relevant for all. So the first question is, would you please describe your volunteer activities and share how they help your view of the county?
Volunteering, that is really important. And as a business owner, it was a little tough to do so. But what I've done at a county and a state level, one of the things I have done is I was the president and chair of the Maryland Division of USA Fencing in relation with the U.S. Olympic Committee. That dealt with dealing with a lot of organizations, all volunteer. These are just individual fencing clubs around the county, and we have one here in Cecil County I helped found. Modern Duelist Fencing Club right there in Triton Industrial Park. There's a totally volunteer organization. We had to arrange events, line up referees, all of that, and it was a very, very humbling and very rewarding experience because it deals with sports and parents and competition. It gets really fun. But here. And weapons with it, exactly. The other way I volunteer, and some of you know me for doing this, I do volunteer at the Milburn Stone Theater at Cecil College. So everybody knows there's a division of that with their theater, it's community theater, the old Covered Bridge Theater, which part of the aspects of that do help fund and help support the scholarship fund. So you may see me on stage or backstage helping out there. We're all volunteers there, and that consumes a lot of my time as well as my family's time. My wife is a stage manager, my daughter's a lighting designer, all for free to help with that. So it's a family affair, and I do feel that that's been fun. It's been great to work as a sideline with the committee at the fair. That was a hoot, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. So, but it's really fun because you get to serve the community directly. And you get to see the faces sometimes when you're out and about. So I'll pass the mic on, excuse me. Al? And how can I forget? And, well, thank you. And I was also helping with as the MC for Freedom Hill's 40th gala anniversary. That was a great time. We raised a lot of money for a great cause, too. I was trying not to. Thank you.
Thank you. Volunteerism is a big part of what we do. It's what I did even before I was on council. Like I said, I've seen each and every one of you at an event. The way that I look at volunteering is to lend my position to that. If I can go and volunteer and be at these events and bring people to awareness for these things, then I think I'm doing my job more appropriately. Volunteerism is done for the inherent value that you bring to it. Probably one of the biggest values that an organization that's closest to me is YES, Youth Empowerment Source. Someone said to me the other day, said it wouldn't be a YES event if you weren't there. So I guess that means I have a big part in that. But those types of organizations are what can help this county in ways that we can't. If you've ever been to a Youth Empowerment Source event, watch the young adults that are there. They have a connection and can get to their peers in a way that we can't. They look at us and go, yeah, old man, you don't understand anyway. So they have a connection. They now have an organization in every high school in the county, also at Tome. They have built this into something that is taking over, and it's bringing the youth of the county to a place that we couldn't. Addiction is obviously a problem. You have students that are at school with both parents incarcerated, that are being raised by grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings. These young adults have an ability to get to those young adults' peers before they get into that addiction cycle. Some of them have been injected into it. These are the kids, these are the young adults that will pull them out of that. They're the ones that'll save our county. So volunteerism is supporting those people, supporting those organizations that do things that we can't get to, but we lend them our support. And we go and show them that people care, that someone in an elected position cares and supports them, and will bring a little horsepower to that for them. So that's what I think volunteerism for us. What was the other?
My extent of volunteerism was, as Bill had mentioned, the drug epidemic in this county. And unfortunately, my daughter succumbed to that epidemic, and as a result, I raised my oldest grandson. And during his years in school, I did a lot of fundraising for the various teams that he played on: soccer, lacrosse, basketball, whatever they needed. Then I helped raise those funds so that kids who were more unfortunate than he was were able to get their uniforms and those types of things. So that brought me a connection with a lot of his friends, a lot of the kids in those programs, which is very rewarding for me. I want to see kids who are suffering, whose parents are incarcerated or whatever the situation is, be able to have those opportunities just like the rest of the kids. And speaking on that same note, since I've been in council, I took a tour of Voices of Hope. That is now it has a very special place for me because of my daughter's situation. What they do there is tremendous, trying to help the community and help the addicts, help those people in recovery. So anything that I can do to support them, they know that all they have to do is call me. Our communities need the support. They need the support of the community. And as a community, we need to support these groups to try to rid our county of this drug epidemic that we have. So that's a big eye opener for me, and knowing they're there, which prior to taking this position, I was not aware they existed. So having the opportunity to meet those people, the staff that run that place, see what they're doing, see the needs of the community through their eyes, it's just overwhelming. So that's my experience.
Thank you. Like I said before, I'm 43 years on the Cecil County Fair Board. In 1978, they came to me and said my dad was going to move up to the State Fair Board. Would you like to take his position? And I did, and I loved it. I was president of the Fair Board for 10 years, and my goal as a president of the Fair Board is to get more younger people involved. We had a junior Fair Board. We had 4-H kids from 9 to 19, and then you could be on a junior Fair Board, and then you could be on the Fair Board itself. And we made a couple policy changes on our guidelines, and we allowed kids that went to college to still be on our Fair Board and still participate, get the minutes, and understand what's going on. And what we did through that is we kept these kids connected through college and then back into the Fair Board and being on the Fair Board today. I go to state meetings and everybody says to me, how do you have 4 people under the age of 30 on your Fair Board? How do you do that? Everybody on our Fair Board is old. And you know what I said to them? We listen to them. We listen to their ideas. I'll give you 2 great examples. Hunter Madron came to me 10 years ago with a piece of paper and said, I can't speak in front of people. I have an idea. He raised funds. He had Smash for the Cure. He's raised probably close to $10,000 for the breast health care center at Union Hospital. Every dime he puts in, gives it to that Union Health Care Center. Katie Kearns went off to school. She's a teacher in Cecil County right today. She stayed on the fair board. She heads up our publicity on the social media section, and she has tons of great ideas. That's what it's all about. People came up with the ideas of recycling. We had the ideas of Fair Family of the Day. That's the biggest thing we do. Katie's in charge of that. She picks the winners. It's just a great opportunity. What it taught me to volunteerism is to listen. Listen to people, understand people, and try and do what's right. Thank you.
I would say, as it relates to volunteerism, I alluded earlier, my time started back with the Volunteer Fire Service, spent many years there. I've been blessed with a very successful career, and I attribute that to being a very young teenager starting out in the firehouse and having great role models. So it is imperative that we get young kids, let them see volunteerism, show them the way to do it so that we have a safe community, because they're going to want to give back to it. Outside of the firehouse in Cecil County, I coached the Cecil Skipjacks. I was one of the assistant coaches working with kids playing baseball, and right up through my son graduating high school and helping out with the Perryville High School team as well. Not an all-field coach, but certainly I was there dragging rakes and getting the field ready and working with the kids. So volunteerism is extremely important, and it sets our kids on a path. These volunteer firehouses are great resources that we need to be tapping for our future deputies, firefighters, and they don't necessarily even have to go into the paid public safety field. It teaches them discipline and respect and dignity, and that's going to go a long way.
Well, now I have to get up. So out of the spirit of complete transparency, so I can say that I was a giver, not a doer. I wasn't necessarily a volunteer for things. During COVID, I found myself unemployed, like I think many across the country. And you can only put in so many resumes a day before you just go absolutely insane. You can only write so many cover letters before you just hate typing. And I found a release, and I found just kind of healing from it by volunteering for the Delaware Food Bank. It was something that I knew I could go. I could just, I stood on an assembly line and just packed lunches for homeless. And it was just those sheer, like, I'm not an assembly. I work a desk job. I work in operations for a sales department. So it wasn't something that I was accustomed to working kind of that, like, we'll say labor. And it wasn't, to be honest. I mop, that's not labor. So I found it just kind of like incredibly healing. I have a process mindset. And so just sitting there and doing these steps and trying to figure out, okay, how do I bag faster? How do I make this more exciting and fulfilling? But I found just the process of doing fulfilling. So I think that's kind of my takeaway from volunteering. And then I was also fortunate, so it's not just, stepping out and, doing something outside of your comfort zone. One of the first opportunities I found, I went on to volunteer Cecil, just looking for things in the area that I could do. I have a background in Salesforce, and there was a position with Freedom Hills helping them get up to speed with Salesforce. So I contacted Pat, and he brought me in, and he said, this has been on there for 2 years, and so it had been, I feel like it was just kind of God leading me there. Over the past few years, God has just led me to an immense amount of people in this county, and just learning and listening and really being able to experience the community that is here in this county.
I think it's important, no matter what office you're running for people to know what you've given back to your community. I have small children, and I work and I have a commute. So volunteer time, I have to make time, create hours in the day to do that. But the best way that I've always known is to donate my services, donate what my skills and what I've been good at. So what I've already said is I'm a court-appointed guardian. I do that service without I don't charge. I am a guardian for many veterans who have no family members, who come from the VA hospital and have nobody to help them manage their healthcare decisions or their assets. I do that because a judge calls me on Friday afternoons at like 3:30 and asks me if I will take another guardianship. And I always do because that I have the time, I have the skills to offer those services, and it's not something I get paid for, which probably my boss hates, but I like because it's helped me be more involved with both communities that I serve in both counties. I've also been fortunate my entire life to always be able to give my time, energy, my resources to organizations in this community. I've always been an involved member of our parish, along with my family. My mom and I plant a garden at Immaculate Conception that we've done since I was like in 4th grade. And we still do it even though the school's not there, not active anymore, but it's just something that the community still looks forward to seeing what we do every year. And my siblings and I always like to include this. My siblings and I founded an inaugural chapter of Ducks Unlimited when we were in college, which is still going today. And you talk about getting youth involved. That's a traditionally older organization, and we got a lot of kids involved from high school and college in land conservation throughout the Delmarva region, which then translated to me getting very involved in land conservation agencies here, which I tell you is kind of my niche. But I also work closely with Cecil Land Trust and a lot of the events that they put on and a lot of the outreach that they do for local farmers and local farming businesses. They've become very active in the last few years, and I've been happy to be a part of that. But all of those to say, please don't tell my boss how much time I just told you I spend not charging for my services. So, but thank you.
Yes, and like Maureen and probably most of the parents in this room, as I have boys, so as we raised our children, I was very active in volunteering with Little League, Cub Scouts, the PTA, and their organizations. And once they were grown, we were able to become more active with our church and dinners for the homeless and served as treasurer for the church and help them with various activities through the years. So absolutely, it is very rewarding to be able to volunteer in the community and give back.
So the next question that we have, can you name 1 or 2 accomplishments, I'm going to add in 1 or 2 minutes, in the last year that have helped Cecil County? And this might overlap with the last question, so how about it?
I've worked very hard on the solar bill to protect Cecil County agriculture. I pushed for that bill for quite a long time, and it was just kind of dragging its feet, and nothing was coming out. And we have a lot of connection lines in Cecil County. And if you don't believe anything else I say, solar is not a farm. Okay, it's not a farm. Worked very hard, and I appreciate the council working with me on this too. You can't put solar in Cecil County on Class 1 soils. That's the soils that produce the best agricultural products. That's what production agriculture is all about. Number 2, we're soil testing. Not every 3 years, every year, to check and see what's going on in that ground from that solar panel, because nobody knows. We have setbacks. We have fencing. You put it in, you put bond money up to take it out, you pay to take it back out, it goes back into agriculture. The other thing that I did, and I briefly talked about that, the school technology, the diesel program, my goodness gracious. We sell the whole county on diesel trucks running up and down the road. We got agriculture is the #1 business in Cecil County, and we don't have a diesel program at the School of Technology. When I visited before I ran, I went in and the guy said he's not going to be happy with me when I opened that door. It was a closet. It was a closet, honest to goodness. Dave Dollinger opened it up, said, Dave, you've got to be kidding me. What a great program. They told me, okay, Miller, you did all your talking. I need 22 kids to join the program. They had a meeting just before Christmas. There was over 40 kids there. They had to have a lottery to start the program. The program's running great, and a lot of volunteers, a lot of organizations helped out in it. So that's my two things. Thank you.
Everybody jump at once. So volunteering for Cecil County, correct?
This is accomplishments.
Accomplishments. It's gone. Who took the card? I want my 2 minutes of time.
Miller took it.
Oh, there it is. I got it here. Now, accomplishments to help Cecil County. Number one, and thank you, Renee, again for. It's been a busy couple of years, even though there's been a lot of COVID issues going on. Number one, regarding COVID, Cecil College is very, very close and dear to me. Again, as I mentioned, the Milburn Stone Theater and the scholarship program. During this past year, there's a lot of transition going on from not being able to present for the community and any particular productions due to these other issues. So I help participate in roundtables and other discussions to help. This is kind of like, what did I do now, but the payment will be a little later, to help keep the patron base up to date and involved, so that when things have, and they have begun to open up, that again, more funding will come through, more patrons will come through, more money, and that was something that was quite a challenge. And the other one, again, and I defer to Renee here, was it was an absolute pleasure and amazing to be working with Freedom Hills in emceeing and having a great event for their program. It was great to see so many people there. Anytime, call me, I'm there. It was great. We were able to help with the auctions and raise money directly for people who really need these services, and that was extremely rewarding to me, and it, particularly being in the Port Depository, that's very close and dear to me. So those are two that I feel very, very proud of this year. So thank you.
Not everybody wants, right? Rob, are you on?
You've had it
I think this is probably a matter of no one wanting to come up here, because I think you have a lot of people here that do give back to their community, and they're modest about it. They're not here to do this for accolades or recognition. I think, one of the things that we've accomplished, and I'll say we, because I don't think it's a personal thing. I think this council has come around and actually become a legislative body. I see our council president here this evening, and thank him for being out here. But, we've actually come a long way, I feel like. We've done a lot of things. We've brought legislation forward that has been beneficial to the county. We've questioned legislation that we thought maybe had flaws or errors within it, and we've worked through it. We had a piece of legislation that was defeated. We came back to it, worked through some of the questions, and got the answers that we looked for, and we were able to pass that legislation. None of us wanted to stop employees within the county from getting raises. That's just not the way it was. So I think our biggest accomplishment, and I include myself in that, but I don't exclude anyone else from it, is that we've taken this county to a better place. We're moving forward. We're growing responsibly. We're listening to the citizens that we represent. And I think that's my greatest accomplishment, is actually listening to the people that I represent and the people that have put me in this position. I'll continue to do that, and I'll tell you the same accomplishment next time I'm here.
Okay. So the final question of the evening. is, again, for anyone who would like to join in, what are some of your main goals moving forward? You leave the card.
Wow, that's a loaded one. For me, my goals, as I alluded to when we had our 5 minutes, was the school. I want to support the school board. That's a big thing for me because I think the kids deserve a good education, and I don't think that the material they are being subjected to accomplishes what we need to accomplish there. That's a number one goal for me. Another goal is to make sure, in any way that I can, that we never have to go through these mandates that were forced on us. Again, I know that that might not be something that can be done at the local level, but I will do my best to reach out to those who can make that happen so that this is not something that we have to tolerate in the future. My other goal, as I mentioned before, was to make sure that we get the police department the support that they need, whether it be through renegotiation with the union or consulting with the executive. Whatever needs to be done, we need to address that, as well as the rest of our emergency systems, and to support our small businesses so that they too have the opportunity to grow and flourish and not be restricted with shutdowns or mandates against them as well. I also want to make sure that we support and fight to keep our First and Second Amendments. I know there's a lot of legislation out there at the state and federal levels to try and take away our Second Amendment rights, and I know there's a lot of censorship going on, but we need to keep that out of the state for one, and we need to keep it out of our county for another. So those are my primary focuses at this point. Thank you.
I think you'll probably hear similar goals. My goals would be to move this county forward. Goal number one, get the law enforcement situation, our public safety, taken care of. We have a disparity with neighboring jurisdictions. We're not paying our law enforcement officers adequately to keep them here, number one, because it's much more costly to go out. The sheriff will attest to that, to go out and recruit a new law enforcement officer, train them, and then have them leave for greener pastures. And we can't ask these people to stay here if we're not going to pay them fairly. It's the most difficult job out there. And how do we look at that law enforcement officer and tell them, stay here? I know you could make 20% somewhere else, 20% more somewhere else, but stay here. A lot of them do. A lot of them have. This is a great county. You can ask each and every one of those law enforcement officers that you talk to. It's a great county to work in. That's not the problem. We don't have the issues that they have in other places with law enforcement. It's just that we have to pay them adequately. Fairly. That's all. Secondly, we have to support our schools. We have to. It's the future that we're looking at. The students that are in those schools today will be the people that are in this audience and up here in the future. If we don't give them the resources that we need, that they need, then we're not going to be able to look at that future with any confidence whatsoever. And third, economic development. Without economic development, none of those other things get funded. That's what pays the bills. It's what generates the revenue. It's what generates the tax base that pays for all of the services that people are looking for. It's interesting coming into an election season, you hear during budget season, usually people come and say, looking for my tax cut, looking for my tax cut. It's not what I heard this year. What I heard people say was, I'm looking for my services to be restored. I need my law enforcement to be paid adequately so that we can retain them, that we can keep them here. We can't be down the number of officers that we are at the detention center and on patrol. We lost an entire patrol division to Baltimore County. 4 very, very good law enforcement officers. We lost one recently to Delaware State Police. The sheriff would tell you he was the poster child of what you want law enforcement to look like, act like, behave like. But we lost them. We are no longer looking at a what-if situation. We are there. We're at critical mass. We've lost so many law enforcement officers at this point, we're at the tipping point. It becomes difficult. I don't want that man's job right now. I can't believe he's running for it again, but we have to support them, and we have to do it responsibly. We have to have economic development, then we have to support public safety, law enforcement, EMS, and fire, and then we have to support our schools. Those are my goals.
All right, so I think everybody knows where I stand on public safety and education as well. But I do want to take a minute to talk about business growth and small businesses and medium-sized businesses. In District 4, we are about to see a boom. Great Wolf Lodge is coming. There's going to be other businesses that come with that, and it all goes hand in hand. The more people that are coming to Cecil County, we need more police. We need more ambulances. We need more fire trucks. So it is circular. So it needs to be done smartly. It needs to be done, we need it, as the Councilman said. We need that growth. We need that tax base so we can fund all the projects that take place in the county. So that's one thing I wanted to add. And the second is work together. Not only just with my fellow councilmen when I'm elected, but with the constituents and the people of Cecil County. We have to work together. I'm in a profession that unfortunately has a stigma of us versus them. You can't have that with your local government as well. You have to listen to the people, work with them. We're not always going to agree, and I'm not always going to make you happy. If I gave everybody here a $100 bill right now, somebody would complain it wasn't $250. I promise you. But listen to the constituents and work together.
And again, have a goal in this election that I think we're doing a pretty good job of, is that trying to get some younger people involved. My committee is extremely young because I don't look young and I don't feel young because I haven't slept in like 7 years. But I want to get. I've been involved in county politics for a really long time. I've been drugged to events since I was teeny tiny, and I've always been one of the youngest people in the room, and I've always been comfortable in that position, and I've always appreciated the knowledge that I've gained from other generations. But I think it's time for our county to focus on bringing in younger blood, and I want to be a part of that, and my committee wants to be a part of that, and I think it's good for all parties and in all positions to work on making sure that there's another generation to come up behind us to serve in our community in all of these roles. So that's, if nothing else from this election, that's what I hope to achieve.
I know it's getting late, and this will be short, but I mentioned some of my goals when I talked to you earlier. We take advantage of emerging technology. Electronic filing may just not fit in the Register of Wills. Like I said, most of our estates are small estates, and a lot of times it's an older widow, that poor widower, that's trying to handle the estate, and sometimes it's just not possible for them to utilize electronic filing. So we have to pay attention to our base of who's actually filing the paperwork. Yes, we could open it up to different law offices, but then on the other hand, a lot of our papers have got to be the original. We've got to have the original will, we've got to have the original bond. And let's see, in addition to the technology, No, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But, oh, I know, I volunteer on the probate review committee statewide. We study that code back and forward to see what laws are still in there that don't pertain to the community today and to actually administering a estate. Like I told you, we dug in there, we've gotten rid of the small estate fee. Not too long ago, we eliminated the inheritance tax to direct heirs. So constantly we're working on it to make it easier for people to be able to file their estates and get it done quickly, because that's the goal. Thank you.
As I alluded earlier, part of my career is that as a consultant. I consult with a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries for a lot of different things related to their marketing, their business structures, and I get to see a lot of unique situations, and government being one of them. And having worked with particular one organization that dealt with the EPA, that's fun. That is not fun. But it taught me a lot. And one of the things I learned, and part of my position that I'd like to say is my one goal when I am elected, would be to not only be a voice this way, but listen and react and talk with everybody. And also, because I've seen a lot of this myself, I'm fairly well versed, and I see that this one said that, and that one said that about this legislation, whatever, and this is what I deal with. I deal with departments and things that don't speak with each other. My job is to take a lot of that information, compile it down, make it understandable, detailed, and pertinent. I see a lot of things, and this is not for anybody here, it's in general in government, that this COLA increase with this, with the MOU, you know, I know the terms, but I didn't. I know because I'm in this, I know this. But my job is to almost be the consultant or the teacher taking the position on council to take that information, I saw that, take that information and then properly inform, educate as necessary the citizens on what we're doing so that there's not this rhino this and rhino that, you're not doing that. I felt, and I do feel in general, there's a lot of miscommunication or malcommunication, not intent, but it's a lot of, as it filters down, they always say you don't want to see politics of how the sausage is made. I want to tell people how the sausage is made. Because being informed as citizens is important, because if we're not, we're in deep trouble. So part of my job is to be a sounding board and a voice. I'm not claiming to be the expert on everything. But I'm going to find out, that's what I do. And then we react and talk about it as citizens of Cecil County. Thank you.
Okay, I'll close it out tonight. So, kind of going back to the last question, the accomplishments. So, one of my big things that I've accomplished over the past year is becoming secretary of the Republican Women's of Cecil County Club. So, you know, we came together and we decided this is a big election year. Obviously, we want a huge red wave come November. And we thought, well, we're in our backyard. How do we bring this education to our backyard? And, you know, we started this series of bringing all of the candidates in so that we have an educated community, because I think that's a big part of it. So one of my goals over, you know, kind of just going forward is, I think, to echo Maureen, is just to have a younger group of people. So I'm nothing against any of you, but I look out, there's a lot of white and gray hair out there. And so, or dyed hair. So, and I think that's a big thing, is just having like younger population, you know, continue to be involved and go, and to just get out here, you know, millennials, and you might be a millennial. I assume you are. No? So I'm an elder millennial. So I don't claim them as my own. But so, you know, millennials just we get a really bad rap for, you know, our perspective of the world. And I just want to kind of bring that we aren't all bad. We're not all on the left. Just my brothers. So yeah. I clearly have gotten a little comfortable with you guys. So it's just, I want to bring that like millennial perspective, and whatever happens in July, whatever happens in November, what may come, I'm here to stay, and I just want to stay active in this community, stay active in local politics, and just remain. So whatever comes of July 19th, I ask that you do vote for me. But whatever happens, I'm here to stick around. So.
I'll be real brief. Pay the police, number one. Continue to fight the drug issues in Cecil County, number two. Fund the school system, number three. And number four, we got to keep economic development. That's what pays for everything. Okay, we got to keep striving. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've come to the end, but I have just one thing I want to say. We were up here talking